You know
And
what? I'm so happy you brought that up. I think he deserves to be in the conversation. He will not make it onto the
no,
Mount
he
Rushmore, but
won't.
he is definitely in the honorable benching category. We are discussing Auburn football quarterback Mount
Mm,
Rushmore. Auburn quarterbacks, who would you put? The four spaces, and we agreed on that. We're going to keep it to the four.
yep.
And you and I need to discuss that. Let's get into it. I think there's some pretty big names at the very start of this that
Yeah.
don't really, we need to discuss it just for the sake of discussing it, because I mean, we're doing a podcast after all. But I don't think there's going to be much rebuttal. Would you like to offer up any names just to have
Oh,
as they're going in?
some non-negotiables. I think.
Non-negotiables.
I think. I think. Bo Nick. I'm just kidding. Is I
Oh,
think
could you imagine the heads exploding because people are still
how
somehow
great.
hating on Bo Nix?
Cam.
Okay.
Cam. He's. You can see his poster to my upper left.
Yes.
Cam Newton is on Mount Rushmore of Auburn. Yeah, he had one season. That is going to be the biggest thing. Anyone who wants to try and put up an argument, no.
Yeah.
14-0, Heisman Trophy winner, first pick in the draft, unprecedented season, the best season by SEC quarterback, period. Freak athlete. Cam Newton is on Auburn's quarterback's Mount Rushmore. I don't see how anyone sane can disagree with that.
Well, and I like to look at it this way. When someone's going on a Mount Rushmore, that means they mean something extra special. It's one thing to be a great quarterback. It's one thing to, just have great seasons and stats and stuff like that. But there's got to be a full picture. Let's look at
Yeah.
Cam Newton real quick. Heisman Trophy winner,
Yep.
national champion. Yes,
Yep.
in 1 year, but it's incredible. I mean, there's discussions had every offseason when everybody's bored and can't produce regular content in sports about who's the greatest coming out of the college football of the SEC, and it's always Cam and Tim Tebow usually,
Yep.
or maybe Joe Burrow for some reason these days.
Yeah.
I know he had a great season, folks, but let's calm down. He's not better than Cam Newton. Just chill, at least as a total package. So he's also been to the Super Bowl. He's been an NFL MVP. He came back to Auburn to get his degree. He comes back a lot, brought his whole family back. I mean, what he has done for Auburn, even outside of him leaving and coming back and, bucking the trend of, he's just there to use y'all. He's not coming back. Boy, were they wrong about that. Is no question. Cam Newton is already on there. So one of the four spots is taken.
Easily.
I think number two. I think there's a second one that has to go there. You go ahead and say it. Let's see if we're on the same page.
Pat Sullivan.
There we go. Thank you.
I mean, same reasoning, right?
Right.
A historic name in Auburn athletics, Auburn football history, a Heisman Trophy winner. No, were his stats as good as Cam Newton? No, look at the era. Look at the different style of play back then. It doesn't matter. And we have seen his impact on the state of Alabama, his impact on Auburn athletics, all the way up until the day he died. And so Pat Sullivan is 1,000% still on that Auburn quarterback Mount Rushmore list.
Yes, I agree. I think he's got to be there. If you really want to get your emotions going, I think it's hard to find actually, but maybe not. Just search Pat Sullivan Heisman Trophy speech, and the way he talks about his team and stuff like that with such simpleness, and I don't mean that in a weird, like a derogatory way or anything, but just plainness in terms of just giving credit where credit is due outside of himself. He was it seemed like to me from outside looking in, a very pleasant, great individual outside of the game. And I think that came through in his Heisman Trophy speech. So national championship winner, part of one of the best duos, wide receiver quarterback duos at Auburn, Heisman Trophy winner, our first Heisman Trophy winner, came back and coached at Auburn too. That in and of itself gets you as an Auburn quarterback Mount Rushmore. So 2 spots taken. We agree, correct?
100%.
So this is where the debate begins, and I will let you go first in submitting number 3, at least who you think could fill a spot.
Yeah, well, this is where it gets hairy. I've got several options. I'm not really sure, to be honest, who takes the last 2. This is where I'm looking forward to hearing from our listeners. in their own opinions. But I'm operating out of a few names here. We've got Damian Craig. We've got Jason Campbell,
Mm-hmm.
Stan White, and I'm putting Nick Marshall in there.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
I
agree.
think I lean as if I'm picking from those four as one of the most solid choices. Like we know Cam and Pat are in there. Who's my next? Who do I feel best about next?
Yeah.
I'm leaning Jason Campbell,
Yeah.
and I think that you probably or tend to agree with me on this. That with his accomplishments, with of course the 04's undefeated season, the SEC championship, the record set, being back in Auburn now obviously helps. But that's a guy who went 4 full years and stuck through it with Auburn and has remained an Auburn man through and through to still be here and contribute to, on to victory. Obviously, he's now on the radio as Andy Burcham's color analyst. So his contributions to Auburn, obviously on the field, are very noticeable. And I think give him plenty of merit to be on the Mount Rushmore, period. But
Yeah.
he has in the last decade has given so much more to Auburn, even still off the field and as a member, of different organizations that I think he has to be considered pretty strongly.
I wonder if a certain team that shouldn't have been in a championship game in 2004, actually both of them should not have been, one's by performance, one by legitimacy in terms of cheating. Jason Campbell with a national championship, I think, is probably a shoe-in for this. And he's pretty close right now. And yes, you laid out his accolades, even outside of physically playing quarterback for Auburn, what he's doing now, what he's done in the past for Auburn outside of actually being a player here. I think those help your case in getting on Auburn's quarterback, Mount Rushmore. I'm not going to really fight you there. And I don't think that we're going to get a lot of pushback from that either. But there are some pretty good candidates that we should at least round out. And I know I actually thought about this one, but I'll reference one of our viewers right now, Randy Campbell, should also be in a discussion about this. To me, I would probably put Randy Campbell and Nick Marshall in the same category. It's kind of like almost honorable mentions, meaning they have a case to be had there. And maybe somebody may be able to make a better case for them. I don't know. But you also got names like Damian Craig. You got names like Stan White, and kind of similar story of what he's meant to Auburn, even after being a quarterback as a color commentator too. So I don't know. Let's put Jason there kind of in a spot and say he's probably going to be there. We'll leave it a little bit open. If you're going to push for a fourth one, though, who are you going to take?
I think it is hard. I think I'm going with Stan. The all-time passing record at Auburn still. And then you mentioned, he still has all the accolades off of the field of what he gave to Auburn, but also a longtime starter at Auburn University. Big wins in the late 90s. Some things when things were, there was some turmoil around the program back then. Stuck through it, still, racked up the yards. And that's a record that has lasted a long time now. We're coming on 30 years. So I'm thinking I'm gonna go with Stan White. Coming into tonight, I didn't know which way I was gonna lean, but I think I'm going with Stan White. We got a lot of push for Randy Campbell.
I'm telling you, I knew this was coming, and I'm happy about it, to be honest with you. This
I am
is what
too.
we want out of these discussions. I want people to champion certain aspects of, which is why we're not releasing our definitive list just yet. We're just having a general discussion about it, just because I think there's cases to be made. Frankly, how some people probably feel about Randy Campbell, I honestly feel about Nick Marshall. I think he is you can't see it on screen right now, but my most prized signed book ball is for what he meant to us on the field in terms of those 2 years. Nobody ran the Gus Malzahn offense better than Nick Marshall. Bo may have been able to. Won't open that sore tonight because we've opened up a lot of other ones. But there you go. Stan White, I think, is a great option there too, in terms of taking a 4th spot. I think Damian Craig and the success that he had, and seeing as part of the Pat Dyer, I think there's a lot of good options to fill those other 2 spots. I think Jason's probably going to fill that 3rd spot. That 4th spot is pretty much up for grabs. Anybody we're forgetting before we leave it up to everybody else?
I really can't think of too.
Patrick Nix.
I don't know if he's got the longevity, the amount
Yeah.
of time that it would take. Obviously, meant a lot to Auburn. I think of guys like who would probably put in that same camp. Ben Leard is someone I'd put in that camp who had good moments. Um, you know, my childhood love, and there's some people who still like to hate on him, was Brandon Cox, and Brandon Cox was a baller.
You know
And
what? I'm so happy you brought that up. I think he deserves to be in the conversation. He will not make it onto the Mount
no, he
Rushmore, but
won't.
he is definitely in the honorable benching category,
Yeah,
to be
and,
honest.
and I recognize, and I think that's probably what we're going to get a lot of feedback on this, is that we are younger individuals who
Yes.
did not see Randy Campbell play and did not see, these other people we've mentioned that we can recall. But I think it's when you look at the quarterback history at Auburn, there's good moments. Is it the best to ever grace college football? No, in terms of talent and accolades, no. But there's more there than people think.
Yeah, there is. I think Gabe Gross also played. He's got a little bit. If we have a
Yeah.
Auburn Mount Rushmore for multi-sport players,
Oh,
that might
which
be.
we're doing that. We're
We're
doing that
gonna
at
do
some
that
point.
one. There's a lot of them actually out there. People think
Yeah.
Bo Jackson, they think Gabe Gross. There's some recent ones that I'm going to throw out to you. One, Noah Igbenogany for
Yeah.
track and field and stuff like that. But anyway, Auburn quarterback Mount Rushmore. We have had our discussion. We will fight anyone tooth and nail that says that Cam and Pat are not on it. You will not be part of this discussion. That's not negotiable.
Right. Your vote is thrown out.
Jason probably legitimizes your stake in terms of making a Mount Rushmore, but that 4 spot, we basically all agree, I think, that it's up for grabs with a lot of people championing somebody. So it's up to you all. Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your feedback on this. If you're watching this in a segment on social media, you can post in the comments, tag us, one of us individually or E2C Network this week when you're watching. And probably next episode, we'll reveal our official with our feedback and yours, the Mount Rushmore for Auburn quarterbacks coming up in the future.